All right, guys. So today I'm going to be responding to this video made by Anime Uproar called Attack on Titan New Ending Fully Explained, Shingeki no Kyojin Extra Pages, and Sequel Rumor Breakdown. So Anime Uproar is someone who, once again, I thought had a very good understanding of the story. He's been covering Attack on Titan for years. I've watched many of his videos, just like Foxen. I made a video similar to this style with Foxen and Foxen Anime, if you don't know who that is, and I have the video up on my channel if you want to check that out after you watch this one. The difference between this video and Foxen's video is that Foxen made his claims before the 8 pages came out, where the 8 pages proved his claims to be wrong. And so I made the title Foxen Anime didn't understand the story. I'm gonna make the title the same for this video, but it's not necessarily the same thing that I said about Foxen. I'm not saying Anime Uproar didn't understand the story, but what I am saying is that a lot of the defenses that he has for why this ending is not complete and utter dog shit are terrible. And to be fair, throughout the video, he does offer some criticism towards the ending, but I feel like he goes way too soft on the criticism and is way more defensive than he should be, because this ending, as I said, once again, is absolute dog shit. So I don't want this introduction to be too long, so we're gonna start off. This video is probably gonna be pretty long, actually, because I have a lot of points. He said a lot of things that I have to address. And one final thing I have to say, I'm not really dissing him. I'm not going against him. If I say anything that comes off as offensive, it's only for entertainment purposes. And also the arguments that he makes are arguments that a lot of other people make as well. So if you're making the same argument that he makes, my response can be applied to you. So let's begin.
What is up, everybody? It's Animax.
Okay, we're gonna skip the introduction. So
candid conversation between Eren and Armin, and this conversation is happening in the Land of the Paths. It took place around the time that Armin and Annie were talking on the deck of that ship back in chapter 131. Eren made Armin forget about this conversation after it happened.
he's just giving a summary. I'm gonna skip that.
The humans who were left alive would see the Eldians who stopped Eren as heroes rather than enemies, which would hopefully delay any future conflict between Eldians and the rest of the world. And here we already have the first big issue that many people had with this ending. Why would Eren go to the trouble of killing 80% of humanity outside the walls, but not the remaining 20? If he's already willing to kill millions and millions of people, then why wouldn't he just go all the way?
Yep.
The answer is not 100% clear.
See? That's where you fucked up. The answer is not clear was all you needed to say to prove that you yourself think this is a plot hole, and because it's a plot hole, it's dog shit. Let me explain. This was Eren's primary goal. He wanted to do this ever since he reached the ocean. Isayama intentionally hid Eren's goals from the audience for 40 some odd chapters. That's over 3 years. And now the story is over, and you yourself have no idea why your main character did what he did. You can only infer and try to fill in the holes yourself because the author miserably failed to do so. You have already proven that you do not think that this is a good ending, and it's only been 3.5 minutes into this video. I can't wait to see the rest.
But it could simply be that Eren wanted humanity to survive in the long run. If only the Eldians on the island survived, then one major natural disaster or even a civil war could lead to the destruction.
Oh god, I hate
other
this.
Possibilities that Eren believed that Paradis needed other humans in order to stay united. If the people on Paradis knew that somewhere across the ocean there were other nations who were potential enemies, then they would unite behind the idea of defending themselves against that common enemy in the future, and so they would be motivated to keep progressing as a society. If the people on Paradis knew that they were the only people left in the world, they might get too comfortable. So they might stop thinking about progress, and eventually they could just start fighting amongst themselves until they wipe each other out in some brutal civil war.
I hate this inference so much. By this logic, Eren should not have done anything, because people will always fight each other anyway. Since when was Eren's goal to end fighting forever? Since when was Aaron's goal to change human nature? Was his goal to save his people or not? If it was, then keeping 20% alive so they have someone to fight is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And also, guys, I know it takes a while in between points for me to state my counter arguments, but he does take a while to state his points, which is why the video is so long, and I have to let him state the point as he states it in the video so I don't remove any of the context in his argument. So sorry about that.
But with that being said, I definitely recognize that there is a jarring dichotomy within Aaron's character in the final chapter.
Yeah,
And this bothered many people.
should bother you too.
With Armin, it is clear that Aaron, at the very end of the story, is two radically different beings at once.
Yeah.
On the one hand, he is still a traumatized and vulnerable teenager with unstable emotions. But on the other hand, due to the founding Titan power, Aaron is also a semi-omniscient being for whom the present, the past, and the future all exist at once. This means that Aaron is trying to juggle two radically different existences within himself. And to be honest, it is practically impossible for us as readers to understand how that would even feel. Maybe.
Yeah, doesn't that sound relatable? Doesn't that sound like great storytelling? You can't even understand what your main character is feeling, let alone how he thinks. Masterpiece. Flawless. Wonderful story. Magnificent. Excellent writing. Isayama, you're a fucking genius. You made a character that this guy who has been researching him and making YouTube videos on for years, he has no idea what his motivations were. He's admitted it openly in this video. And Anime Uproar, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're openly admitting that you have no clue what the main character of a story that you have followed for years wanted to do. And you're trying to defend that? Unbelievable.
The closest we can get to understanding someone who exists in the past, present, and future at the same time is the concept of Uji, or being time, which was developed by 13th century Zen master Dogen. But even that is not the same thing. After the activation of the founding Titan power within him, Eren is both human and radically different from human at the same time. And so in this final arc, it is often impossible to tell where the Eren we know ends and where the collective consciousness of the founder begins.
You say this like it's a good thing. Like, my God, the things you guys will say to defend this ending, it just baffles me. How is it a good thing that you don't know what your main character wanted to do? How is that good? More importantly, how are you defending Eren's actions when you yourself said you don't even know what actions were his? Is it because you're not being intellectually honest? Is that why?
That brings us to some of the biggest issues that many fans had with the ending, and that is Eren's character itself. In the final chapter, Eren implies that back when Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie first attacked Shiganshina, it was actually Eren himself who compelled the Smiling Titan to walk past Bertolt and towards his own mother. Eren said he did this because he knew that it wasn't yet Bertolt's time to die.
Right.
Critics of this moment couldn't understand why Eren would want his own mother to die and for everyone on the island to suffer if he had the power to change it. What was the point of this entire battle against Marley if Eren had the power to change it all from day one but didn't? But here's the thing. I don't think that Eren, the character we know as Eren Yeager, had the power to change it.
Do you see that? I don't think there's nothing in the story that has proven to you that what you're thinking is true. So you're basically just defending this because you feel like it. That's basically what you're doing. You have no explanation. You say, I don't think so, guys. I think you guys are wrong. Why are we wrong, Anime Uproar? Why? Why could Eren control that, but nothing else? Why? Hmm?
I think that he experienced this event as part of the founding Titan's massive collective consciousness. So for him, it felt like it was actually him doing it and guiding the Smiling Titan, but it wasn't really him. It was the founder, of which his consciousness was just one small part.
So the founder decided to have Aaron's mother killed, even though Aaron himself said that that was not the case. So now you're going against the source material itself to defend the source material. Jeez, man.
Don't forget about Carl Fritz's famous valve pacifism, because this phenomenon proved that the founder can fundamentally change the consciousness of its current holder. People like Yuri and Frida Reese were committed to end the valve pacifism and protect the people of Paradise before they inherited the founding Titan's power. But then, as soon as they became one with the founder, they completely changed their minds. I think that something similar happened to Eren. He wasn't bound by the vow of pacifism himself because he didn't have royal blood, but his
So you just admitted that Eren was not bound to the same thing that the other people were not. I'm glad you remember that, because yeah, that's true. The whole reason why Eren getting the founder was so amazing for the story is because he was someone who was not bound by the will of the king, who could use the founder as his own free, like whenever he wanted to. He could use it however he wanted to use it, unlike someone with royal blood. So how can you just, you're literally just making up stuff right now. Like, you're literally just making things up, my guy. You're literally telling me something that the plot did not say. And you already admitted that. You said you think this happened. You're just making it up. You can't just make up a defense. You can't do that. You need to cite evidence. You need to bring up evidence that supports this. You need to bring up something that says the founding Titan had possession over Eren's brain, and that's why this happened. You don't have anything to say that, so you're just grasping at straws right now.
Consciousness was fundamentally altered once it became one with the collective consciousness of the founder. This means that Eren wasn't really free after all. As much as he claimed to be pursuing freedom, in the end he was still dependent on and perhaps even subordinate to the founder.
And still, that's even if you want to use that leap in logic and make up your own story, that's still terrible. Because we followed this character for so long. Basically, we were possessed by the founder too, because we thought that these were his decisions. We thought that these were his decisions, that he had agency. He was making his own choices and doing what he had to do, that what he felt was right. But this whole time, nope. It was just destiny and possession, a ghost past that's telling him, yeah, Eren, make sure you beat up your friend. That's what the founder told him to do, right? Yeah, Eren, make sure you choose Flock as your second in command. The founder told him to do that too. Yeah, Eren, make sure you put a hoodie on. The founder told him to do that too. Like, where do you draw the line between the founder's decisions and his decisions? Do you just pick it? I feel like you guys just pick it. Like, no, I feel like Eren did that, but the founder did that. Anything that's terrible with writing, the founder did it. But good writing, that was Eren. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
I'm not saying that he had no will of his own.
Yeah, you are.
One of many wills within the founder. And in the end, it seemed that Ymir Fritz was the one who called the shots.
Oh, Ymir called the shots. Oh, yeah, that's why she was listening to Zeke's in Paths until Eren grabbed her. Yep, she sure looked like she was calling the shot all the time. She was calling all the shots in that scene for sure. Remember how Zeke was telling her exactly what to do and she was obeying him completely? When she could have just easily just said, "Nope, Eren's here. I'm done listening to you, boy." Yep, she was calling all the shots. Absolutely.
When we saw Mikasa kill Eren in order to stop the rumbling, despite the fact that Eren was the man that she loved, Ymir stopped the rumbling and apparently removed the Titan powers. Now, I know that many fans don't like this implication that Eren was not really free.
Yeah.
They wanted him to achieve his lifelong goal of attaining true freedom for himself and for his friends.
Yeah.
The question of are we free is not a simple one. And
Oh,
it's hard
God.
to say how much of what we do is our own free will.
Oh,
and
my
how much
God.
depends on things like our upbringing, our specific cultural and social context, and fate itself, if fate is something that you believe in.
All right, so now once again, this guy he's literally trying so hard, like the mental gymnastics here. So let's take this logic and apply it to the real world, right? Let's take this logic, right. Okay. Let's say like back in the 1800s, whenever the fuck slavery was going on, I'm not good with history. And let's say I was a slave, right? And my mom and me, we got freed from slavery, from our slave master. And we moved wherever it was safe at the time. I think the North was more safe. And we were no longer slaves. I was allowed to go to school, learn stuff, get whatever I wanted to eat. My mom was free. She didn't have to do anything terrible. You know, she had a regular job. And we lived a nice and healthy life. And then my mom and I said, Mom, are we free? And then she said, well, free depends on, you know, your lifestyle and what you were up and what you believe in. I mean, I don't know if we're free or not. You know, like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, my guy? You're taking this small concept. When Eren said free, he meant free from persecution and trying to be murdered because he's an Eldian. That's what he meant by free. That's what he meant. He does not want to be killed based on his ethnicity. That's what he means by free. After he reaches the ocean, that's what he means by free. So what in the hell are you talking about? So now, to justify this garbage tier writing, you're going to say that all humans have something controlling their every decision. Does no one have conviction? Does no one have agency in this planet? My God, dude. The mental gymnastics.
Eren's character was the fact that at one point in the final chapter, Eren seems to revert to a childish state. When Armin asks him if he would be okay with Mikasa moving on and finding someone else, Eren says that no, he can't stand the idea of her being with another man. Eren also says that he doesn't want to die. He just wants to be happy with Mikasa and his friends. But as much as he would love to do that, he can't just hide away and pretend that most of the world isn't preparing to destroy the island of Paradise. So in the end, Eren decided to initiate the rumbling, not because he's some alpha mega Chad, but because he believed that it was the only way to save his friends and the woman he loves. And this really pissed some people off. So,
justifiably,
Eren is cool with destroying most of the world and killing millions of people, but he's upset because Mikasa might end up with another guy.
Yes.
I've heard so many people argue that this moment destroyed all of Eren's character progression.
It did.
Made him revert into that edgy, overdramatic teen that he was earlier.
That's
in the
true.
story. But I have to say that I disagree with this interpretation. It might be hard to understand that one person can be both a nearly omniscient being and a vulnerable teenager at the same time, but that is exactly what Don't forget that at the end of the Attack on Titan story, Eren is only 19 years old. He's still just a teenager. And on top of that, he is a teenager who had an incredibly difficult and traumatic life.
Yeah. Remember that time when Eren was 8 years old? He was only an 8-year-old. You remember that? I'm just gonna.
Combine that with the fact that his consciousness ended up melding with the incomprehensible collective consciousness of the founder. And are we really expecting Eren to be an emotionally stable person? Are we really expecting him to suddenly forget all of his trauma and immaturity and become the greatest Chad in all of anime? That would have been far less faithful to his character.
So sad.
Revealed that back when he was having a private conversation with his best friend, Eren had a moment of weakness in which he said that he wanted Mikasa to just be with him and no one else.
A moment of weakness. Eren has had multiple moments of weakness throughout the story. We are not upset because Eren is crying. We are upset because of the reason why he is crying. What kind of a piece of shit person who was killing so many innocent people could have the audacity to cry about something like this? How could a man who told his father to kill innocent children because their duty is to keep fighting even after they die turn into someone who whines and snivels like this? I don't care if Eren is 18 or 19 or 13 or 27 or 92. This is not consistent with his character, and you cannot find one example in the story to prove that. Give me one example of the story where Eren was crying over Mikasa. I will wait an eternity until you can bring that up.
Eren even asked Armin not to tell Mikasa about this because ultimately he did want her to move on and be happy. He just wasn't thrilled about the idea of her being with another man. And I mean, who can blame him? He's still just an emotionally immature teenager, and if you've ever been a teenager yourself and you had a big crush on someone, you probably went through many immature and melodramatic feelings and thoughts at that time.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when I was 19 and I had a girl that I had feelings for, and I knew that she had feelings for me, and I said nothing to her about it ever. Yep, that's a perfectly normal crush. Eren is just a kid, guys. He's just a little boy. He doesn't know how to express his emotions. Duh. How can you expect so much mental maturity from him at such a young age? Oh wait, is it because he literally murdered people without a second thought when he was 8? No. That's perfectly normal behavior as well. Didn't you murder people in the 3rd grade? Isn't that a common occurrence?
Because let's be real, that's just how most teenagers are. I don't think that this moment takes away from Eren's character progression at all. In fact,
wow.
I think that it shows us that he is still human, at least some part of him still is, even after he became the founding Titan.
You mean like in chapter 131? You mean like that? When he kneeled before a child he was going to kill and he wept? Does that not seem human-like to you? There's a way to write Eren to be emotionally unstable while also not being a whiny little bitch. It's been done ever since the beginning of the story.
Now let's talk about Mikasa and Ymir, because the connection between them ended up being an extremely important aspect of the ending and another major point of criticism.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
The real reason why Ymir Fritz was so loyal to the Fritz royal family for thousands of years is because she actually loved King Fritz. Even though he was a cruel and horrible human being, and even though he was literally her abuser, she loved him and the family that they had together. So that is why she chose to sacrifice her own life to save him, and why she continued to obey the Fritz royal family even from beyond the grave.
Okay, cool. So then why did she not regenerate? Why did she choose to die? Did you forget that part? The logic doesn't match up. If Ymir loved Fritz and her family, why would she not regenerate so she could be with them? Can you please answer this? Please.
At the same time, Ymir's love had enslaved her, and she wanted someone to free her from the world of the paths. That someone who would eventually free her turned out to be Mikasa, because even though Mikasa
I'm about to throw up.
She was willing to kill the love of her life for the sake of others, for the greater good.
Yeah, too bad she waited until billions of innocent people were killed first. Way to go, Mikasa. But also, this whole logic is just ridiculous. Once again, if Ymir was looking for Mikasa the whole time, why did Eren have to convince her to join him? If Ymir knew that she wanted Mikasa to kill Eren, right? So why did she just not immediately go on Eren's side the moment he enters paths? Why did Eren have to put on this whole show proving to her that he cared about her and wanted her to free her? Why do you have to do that if she knew? The moment she saw him, she should have been like, oh, that's the boy right there. Let me go ahead and join him. Bye-bye, Zeke. We're going to go get Mikasa to kill him now. Why didn't she just do that? Is it because it was a retcon?
After she saw Mikasa making this heartbreaking choice, Ymir decided to follow in her footsteps, and she chose freedom over her love for King Fritz.
What the hell are you talking about, dude? Ymir could have had freedom and love, King Fritz, if she had just regenerated from the fucking spear. What's also crazy to me is the fact that you are not even questioning how disgustingly insulting it is to have a character who is in love with her mental and physical abuser. Do you really think this is good writing? Are you gonna critically attack that? No? Shame.
The extra pages revealed that Ymir had been peeking inside of Mikasa's mind throughout her life, which implies that Ymir's intrusions into Mikasa's mind through the paths is what caused Mikasa's headaches.
Okay, but why though? Why is she doing that? What did the Ymir want to see in Mikasa's head? Did she want to see what she's gonna do to kill Eren? Like what's the reason? Do you have an answer for that? Why does she want to see what this bitch is thinking so bad? Why?
Before this extra page was added, the question of why Mikasa had those headaches was still unanswered, but now we finally seem to have an answer.
Oh god, a filled plot hole. Finally. That's one. We got about 99 million to go.
For King Fritz must have felt like a never-ending nightmare. At the same time, that relationship, as tragic as it was, produced Ymir's 3 daughters, who became the ancestors of the modern Eldians. Without them, Mikasa and everyone else on Paradise probably never could have existed.
Yeah, no shit. What does it have to do with anything? How is that relevant?
Ymir then briefly envisions a different past, a past in which she allowed King Fritz to be assassinated and lived on with her 3 daughters. This is definitely how things should have been, and I wish that this had really happened, but unfortunately Ymir sacrificed herself to save King Fritz. And then he went on to force her daughters to consume her remains and carry on the power of the Titans throughout the generation.
Yeah, what a loving husband.
As Mikasa says goodbye forever to Ymir and Ymir's vestige evaporates, the very next image that we see is of Historia's daughter. I don't know if this is supposed to be a hint that Ymir may have been reincarnated into Historia's daughter, or if it's just supposed to be symbolic. But I could totally see Historia naming her daughter Ymir in honor of her fallen comrade from the 104th Training Corps.
Yeah, that would have been nice and sweet and a really nice nod to the character. It would have made perfect sense. But I mean, you have no idea, I have no idea, and no one does. So who cares?
Now, while I did appreciate the inclusion of these extra pages, especially because not knowing why Mikasa was getting those headaches was really bugging me, I can understand why a lot of people had issues with Ymir's character and her motivation.
So why would so I don't know why Eren wants to do what he wants to do. I don't know how the Titan curse ended. I don't know pretty much anything about anything when it comes to Attack on Titan. But those headaches, why was Mikasa getting those headaches? I have to know. I just have to know. I have to be explained to me. I must know the reason for that. Once I know that, it'll be a masterpiece.
If I'm being honest, I don't think that Ymir Fritz is a well-written character.
Hallelujah! Oh man, maybe there's hope for you after all, Anime Uproar. Maybe there's hope for you after all.
Her motivation for serving the Fritz family is not unrealistic. Unfortunately, in the real world, there are people who develop feelings for their abusers, and that is why abusive relationships can persist for years and even decades.
That's true. The problem with this story is that instead of showing how disgusting and terrible and how awful this abusive, terrible, disgusting relationship is, and instead just throws all that in the trash and says, nope, she loved him. Shut up. That's the problem.
But the fact that Ymir's motivations aren't unrealistic doesn't mean that they constitute good writing. I think that her character and backstory could have been developed a lot more thoroughly, and her motivations for serving the Fritz family could have been more interesting and more complex than just, oh, she loved King Fritz. When we compare Ymir and her character to so many other characters in Attack.
Well done. No complaints so far with what he said about Ymir. I agree 100%. Finally, some valid criticism.
Attack on Titan, she just doesn't measure up. And that is unfortunate because as the founder, she could have been a lot more interesting. This is just my opinion though. I do understand where the criticism of her motivations is coming from, and I tend to agree with it. Another criticism...
Look how soft he says.
...is the claim that the ending was rushed. The final chapter felt extremely rushed. So much stuff was crammed into one single chapter, and there wasn't nearly enough time for Isayama to properly expound on all of these events.
Sure wasn't.
With the extra pages, chapter 139 still feels rushed.
Mm-hmm.
This is painfully evident during the conversation between Armin and Eren. Many critics of the final chapter said that during his conversation with Eren, Armin acted in a way that is inconsistent with his character.
That's true.
Namely, instead of arguing more aggressively about the rumbling, and instead of becoming enraged when Eren refused to stop it, Armin just kind of accepts it and even thanks Eren for becoming a mass murderer for the sake of his friends.
Yeah,
Armin
pretty
also
bad.
seems to get more upset at Eren over his treatment of Mikasa than he does at his decision to murder millions of people.
Yeah.
I totally see where this criticism is coming from, and I think that the extremely rushed dialogue between Eren and Armin is the cause of the problem.
What? Oh my god, bro, you were doing so well with Ymir. Why can't you not just admit that it's bad writing? Like, just say it, man. You know it is. You know it is. Just say, yeah, this is terrible. That doesn't make sense. Ymir's backstory was also rushed and poorly explained, just like this. You had no problem saying that you thought that was bad writing. So why can't you say it here? I agree that the ending was rushed, but it's still terrible regardless, because the core ideas of the ending were terrible to begin with. There's nothing that could be added to this ending to make it good, because the ending itself is flawed to the core.
More time should have been spent on Armin trying to come to terms with the reality of the rumbling, and trying to accept the fact that even though the rumbling is horrifying, it is the only way to save Paradise from total annihilation. I also think that more time should have been spent on explaining how the collective consciousness of the founding Titan works, and more emphasis should have been placed on the fact that Eren is now two beings at once, a human and the collective consciousness of the founder. For Eren, who experiences the past, present, and future at the same time, the rumbling was inevitable, something that had to happen. But for Armin, who is just human, this is not the case. Armin cannot see the future like Eren, so in his mind, so many other alternative solutions could have been implemented.
The rumbling was certainly not inevitable, as Eren had many other options presented to him that could have avoided it entirely. Regardless, using this as an excuse for why Armin could not come up with a better argument than what we got is just pathetic, man. Honestly, it's just a pathetic argument.
Solutions that don't kill off 80% of the world's population. More focus should have been placed on this conflict between Armin's perspective as a normal human being and Eren's perspective as a semi-omniscient collective consciousness. After Armin remembers the conversation with Eren, he takes the credit for killing Eren in order to take that burden away from Mikasa.
Loser.
Eren told Armin that he can still journey beyond the walls and save humanity, and Armin ends up doing that as a sort of diplomat. As the hero who killed the evil Eren, Armin tries to foster good relations
he definitely earned it.
with Paradise and the rest of the world in the aftermath of the rumbling.
As a liar.
That's where the next major criticism comes in.
Yep.
Knowing what we know now, especially after those extra pages were added at the end, what was the point of all of this? When in the end, war inevitably broke out again and Paradise was still destroyed. After the rumbling ends and Eren is killed, Titan powers apparently disappear, and in the final chapter, it is implied that this could be confirmed through blood testing. In theory, this means that
which makes no sense.
Afraid of Eldians anymore. The big Eldian villain was Eren, and he was defeated by other Eldians. Now these other Eldians are all just normal people. They are no longer Titans, which means that the rest of the world doesn't need to be afraid of them, at least theoretically.
Which makes no sense, because they knew that they could not become Titans beforehand without the serum being injected into them. They couldn't just become Titans if they got mad enough. So what's the difference between non-Titan Eldians then and Eldians now? Absolutely nothing. The world hated Eldians because of their past actions. They treated them like garbage before any of this happened. Now you're telling me that after an Eldian nearly destroys the entire planet, they just forget about it? This makes the whole entire racism thing in this story out to be a complete and utter joke. The message is, if someone hates you for how you were born, just change the reason why they hate you and they will stop. Clearly, this is the profound message Attack on Titan was going for all along. We were just too stupid to see it.
However, the Eldians on Paradise are not just counting on theories to keep them safe. 3 years after Eren's death, the Jaegerists have created a modern and professional army that is ready to protect the island in case one of the surviving nations ever decided to attack. At the same time, the heroes who took down Eren became ambassadors for peace, and they are trying to preserve the peace among the surviving nations through diplomacy. So, Paradise is using both military deterrence and diplomatic relations in order to protect themselves and preserve the peace, which is in essence what nations do in our own world. They try to have good diplomatic relations with other countries, but at the same time, they also try to have the strongest military possible in order to protect themselves.
Yep. No one has a problem with that.
Well, Mikasa is not one of the ambassadors, and we see her just spending time at Eren's gravestone, which is located beneath the tree on a hilltop.
Which is
She's
pathetic.
wearing the red scarf, of course, and she talks about wanting to meet Eren again. Then, as the scarf begins to slip off her neck, a random seagull appears and puts the scarf back on before flying away. As a bird,
I can't help but laugh at this panel.
"Thank you for wrapping this scarf around me."
This is so fucking funny, dude.
Chapter 139.
This panel right here just signifies how far Attack on Titan has fallen. There's no way on this planet that you could ever convince me from when I first watched season 1 in 2013 that the last episode would feature Eren as a bird picking up Mikasa's scarf to wrap it. I would have never, ever believed you.
Before the extra pages are added. Naturally, the bird thing created a lot of controversy. Is this bird supposed to be the literal reincarnation of Eren? Or is it supposed to be Eren somehow using the bird to reach out to Mikasa from beyond the grave by using what's left of the past?
You have no idea. We all don't.
It's just a massive symbolic coincidence.
Mm.
I was not a big fan of this scene because it is a bit too on the nose for my liking. The scene seems to be implying that the bird is somehow Eren himself, and without more context or an explanation of how reincarnation would even work in this world, it just seems jarring. So no, I was not a big fan of the bird thing, but...
Well, I'm glad you didn't try to defend this garbage. I was honestly afraid that you were about to try. You had me in the first half, not gonna lie. But I feel like, once again, you are not being critical enough of the glaring flaws of this story. You're not being critical enough. Isayama just pulled something completely out of his rectum. A bird being controlled by a human. It's never been done. There's never been, never. Not birds, not animals, nothing. How in the world did Eren do that? Just because I'm not a fan of it, guys. All right, moving on. Like, oh my God, man. People, they don't want to be critical. They're critical for 15 seconds because this is literally indefensible. There's no defense you can make of it. So at least he didn't try to defend it. I'll give him that.
But now we need to talk about the new ending, because this is where things really get spicy.
Yeah, this is where the video gets spicy too.
Years into the future, and we see an older Mikasa with what is presumably her child and her husband visiting Eren's grave and placing roses.
Damn, this video is gonna be long. Sorry, guys.
His face is not shown, but from behind he looks a lot like Jean, and so people are assuming that it is in fact Jean. Then even more time passes, and we see that Mikasa is an old woman now. She appears to have had multiple children and grandchildren, and it is important to note that the tree looks considerably bigger now than it did in the previous scene. And also, if we take a look at the tree's surroundings,
I have to let him talk this long to get his point across.
When we first saw this tree, there is nothing but nature anywhere close to it. The town was off in the distance, but now the town has transformed into a city and expanded all the way up to the tree and beyond. This tells us that Paradise succeeded in modernizing and industrializing, and so they must have caught up to the rest of the world in terms of industry and technology. Sometime after that, we see that Mikasa has with the red scarf Eren gave her. Some people assume
What a
she was
clown.
buried right next to Eren, but that is not necessarily the case. We don't see where exactly she was buried, but it could have been anywhere.
Who cares? You're gonna just ignore the fact that she was buried with that fucking scarf? That says enough. She was never able to move on from Eren, which was her only possible way to grow as a character. Mikasa died obsessed with her genocidal lover, and Eren thought she had and even though she had an entire family, she did not move on from him at all. So why did Ymir pick her again? What the fuck?
Also, I saw a bunch of people complaining about how Mikasa being buried with the scarf meant that she never got over Eren, and so she never really loved her husband, who is presumably Jean.
Oh,
and
man.
I saw some of those people complaining that Jean was a cock and all this other nonsense. It's such a juvenile interpretation of events that it really makes me wonder how old people who make these comments are.
Oh,
Obviously,
God.
Can love more than one person over the course of their life. And just because Mikasa still loved Eren doesn't mean that she didn't also love her husband.
Yeah, you idiots.
There are many people who tragically lose their spouses and become widowed and then eventually remarry.
Yeah, don't you know that?
Remarried doesn't mean that they stopped loving their first spouse.
Dummy.
The fact that they still love their first spouse doesn't mean that they can't also love their new spouse.
Dummy.
I didn't think that this even had to be said, but apparently it does.
Yeah, dummy. You fucking children on the internet who don't know these simple concepts. Obviously, everyone knows this, but Eren was not her spouse. Eren and Mikasa did not share one single loving romantic moment in the entire story. And even if they did, Eren was a monster who murdered millions and millions of innocent people, and also someone she murdered. It's a bit different when put in that context, right? Imagine a woman kills her husband and then visits his grave every year afterwards. Does that not sound like a psychopath to you? And also the gene thing, well, would you date your friend's girlfriend or lover after he sacrificed his life for you? Would you then date her? That's just a loser thing to do. Not only that, but you already know that you're only second fiddle to this guy. Like, she doesn't really want you. She just doesn't want to be alone. If Eren were to come back to life somehow, she would leave him immediately. But whatever. Let's keep going.
As time continues to pass, the tree beneath which Eren was buried continues to get larger until his gravestone is completely hidden away inside a cavern beneath the massive tree. We then get a glimpse of the distant future, probably like 80 to 100 years after Eren's death. A war using modern weapons technology is raging, and this includes aircraft and anti-aircraft rockets. The military technology we see here is equivalent to the tech that exists in our own.
I can skip a little bit here.
High-rise buildings being bombed into a dark hair and a dog are seen. Based on appearance alone, the child looks like he or she could be a direct descendant of Mikasa. And although this is not the same tree that Ymir came across when she became the founding titan, Isayama's intention here is to create a clear parallel between the two scenes. More than 2,000 years after Ymir, another child finds itself in front of a similar tree in a similarly
Baron, next generations.
And that is the end of the story. There were
The second end.
multiple criticisms of these final pages, so let's start with the criticism that the entire struggle of the story was pointless because in the end, Paradise was destroyed anyway. I do not agree with this criticism because the message of Attack on Titan was always clear. War is inevitable. It is an unfortunate part of human nature, and it can never be completely avoided.
So then Eren shouldn't have bothered then, right? He shouldn't have tried to change that at all, right? Last time I checked, this is a story, not real life. So why does this story have to mirror real life identically all of a sudden? Why can we not get a story that has meaning, that teaches us something? We all already know that war is bad and also inevitable. We didn't need to go through 10 years of this garbage to learn that.
Attack on Titan does not buy into the progressive view of history, which suggests that history...
He just makes the same point again here. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit.
Some humans managed to survive that apocalyptic modern war that we witnessed in the final pages. The fact towards a better tomorrow and towards world peace. But this ending is absolutely consistent with the overarching message of Attack on Titan up to this point. Eren didn't succeed in saving Paradise for all of eternity. He managed to save his friends, he managed to prevent the impending destruction of Paradise by the Marleyan allied armada, and he gave the islanders time to develop and catch up to the rest of the world.
So if war is inevitable, why not just destroy everyone outside the island again? I mean, there will be a war either way, right? At least there won't be a war over racism at that point. At least Eren could have solved that issue. But now, by your own admission, he solved nothing. Nothing other than letting his friends, well, his quote unquote friends, live long lives, except Sasha and Hanji. Yeah, they don't count, I guess.
But after that, human nature was bound to kick in once again. It was only a matter of time, and it seems that it took about 100 years before war erupted once again. I actually liked this addition to the story, and I felt that it meshed perfectly with the rest of Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. I can't argue there, but is it really, is that really a good thing? Is it really a good thing that everything that happened in the story meant absolutely nothing at all? Is that your idea of a satisfying experience? It would be like if after Moses freed the slaves and the Prince of Egypt, a meteor just came down and blew up the entire planet and the movie says the end. Would you really be like, yep, that was great? I just don't understand this logic.
This story was never some idealistic shonen story where in the end the good guys win and world peace is achieved.
Agreed. But there's a way to tell this story without making the story so lame and pointless.
And any ending where the world is at peace forever was never going to happen. Some think that Eren destroying the entire world instead of sparing that last 20% would have changed things, but I wouldn't be so sure. Even if the only people who survived were the islanders on Paradise, internal conflict is still a thing.
Oh my god. How many times are you gonna bring this point up to defend this trash, bro? They sure did. I don't remember them killing everyone though.
Everyone beyond the island. Some type of conflict was still likely to happen. In fact, that final apocalyptic war could have been some form of civil war between rival factions on Paradise.
Wow, yeah, definitely the nukes were the result of a civil war. I mean, when you're having a civil war, of course you would nuke your own home. That makes perfect sense, right? Absolutely.
Finally, I want to talk about all the rumors about a potential sequel, which stems from the fact that this child is a spine-like creature. And once this child enters the cavern beneath the tree, Eren's new centipede thingy will attach itself to the child, just like that other one did to Ymir, and Titan powers will return to the world as this child becomes the next founding Titan. This is intriguing, although I don't think that an actual sequel is likely.
I surely hope the fuck not.
That said, I do think that Isayama wanted us to think about this possibility, and so he left the ultimate outcome of this final scene open for interpretation. I mean, the similarities between the two trees could just be symbolic, but if they are, then why did both Ymir's tree and Eren's tree grow to be so freaking big as compared to all the other trees around them? Is this just...
Yep, you're right. There's no way that this was just symbolic. This was definitely a Titan tree, which means once again, Eren accomplished virtually nothing.
A special breed of tree? Or did it become like this because the spine-like creature itself? What do I really think of the ending? I thought that it was okay at best. The original ending was probably like a 6.5 out of 10 in my book. And the additional pages actually bumped it up for me to like a 7.
Wow.
The overall Attack on Titan story is easily a 9.5 out of 10.
How?
And I think that it
easily? How?
And one of the best fictional portrayals of the cruel reality of war.
So you just said that the ending was ass, but the story is a masterpiece. How can that be? How can something be a masterpiece when every single scene, every single moment, every single line of dialogue now means absolutely nothing? How can a story have an ending with this many issues and still be considered a masterpiece? Once again, you are not being intellectually honest, and more importantly, you are taking away from other true masterpieces and comparing them to this garbage. Attack on Titan is not a masterpiece. It will never be remembered as such. That ship has long sailed.
If it had been up to me, I would have done the ending differently. It was
Yeah,
definitely
me
one
too.
some important questions were never answered, like why was Eren able to manipulate Mikasa's memories at all when previous founders could not affect the memories of the Ackermans?
Good question.
And in general, I think that the final character arcs of people like Armin and Levi could have been handled a lot better.
Definitely.
If you put me on a spot and asked me how exactly I would have ended the story in a better way, I wouldn't know what to tell you. That is the ugly truth about the Attack on Titan.
What are you talking about? That's the ugly truth. What are you talking about?
Ended. After over a decade of anticipation, and after all of the hype surrounding Eren's transformation and the rumbling, it was impossible for Isayama to come up with an ending that would satisfy everyone, no matter what kind.
It was impossible for him to come up with a story that would satisfy everyone too. Do you think every human on Earth enjoys Attack on Titan? No. This is the same weak argument that everyone uses to defend garbage endings, even outside of this one. And I can't understand why people continue to use it. The goal of any story should not be to satisfy everyone. It should be to tell a good story with no inconsistencies, plot holes, rushed and forced instances, or tone-deaf weirdo things like random Stockholm Syndrome and glorifying necrophilia. Regardless, Isayama could have easily made an ending that was 100 times more satisfying than this garbage, and as a matter of fact, I think anyone could have, including you.
Kind of ending it was, millions of fans would likely hate it. A happy Attack on Titan. I have to say that I was very disappointed with some Attack on Titan fans, and even some Attack on Titan content creators. Many of them just jumped on the ending hate train without taking the time to actually think the whole ending through.
Wow.
Falsely claimed that the ending made the entire series bad.
Falsely?
Started criticizing Isayama personally.
Wait, falsely claimed? So that's not our opinion? We can't have an opinion that the ending was bad? Why is our claims false and your claims true? Why is that the case?
And saying that he was always a terrible writer. This is absolutely ridiculous.
He admitted he's a terrible writer.
Dislike the ending, attacking the author after he spent over a decade bringing this story to life for your entertainment.
Oh my God, I can't believe he's saying this right now. So this is the last thing I have to say. So Isayama can create garbage and then tell me I'm stupid for not appreciating it, but I can't say he's a bad writer. He, by his own admission, is a bad writer. He said he failed to convey the themes of his own story. That's a bad writer. He said he didn't want Eren and Mikasa to kiss because he wouldn't know how to portray their relationship after that. That's a bad writer. He wrote a story where a young woman is raped and tortured and falls in love with her abuser and is never explained why or how that happened. That's a bad writer. He wrote a story for 10 years just to throw it all in the trash at the end. That's a bad writer. By your logic, you cannot call anyone bad at what they do as long as they gave you quote unquote entertainment. Criticism is perfectly valid, and having an opinion that Isayama is a bad writer is also perfectly valid. You're not talking about death threats or going after his family, which I completely do not condone. You're talking about calling a hack a hack. When people call J.K. Rowling a hack, are they wrong? When people call D&D bad writers, are they wrong? No, they're just stating how they feel, and they have valid reasons to feel that way. Same for Isayama, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do to change that.
Isayama gave us an amazing story, a heartbreaking portrait. Okay, he's human and humans make mistakes, but turning on the entire series and on the author personally because you didn't like the ending is just petty and wrong. Thank you, Isayama, for the epic story that you gave us.
Yeah. I'll thank Isayama. Thank you, Isayama, for wasting 8 years of my life. I appreciate you, bro.